Alright, time to start washing. This is a week to several week long process. I'm first going to dump that last bit of diesel that I drained off the bottom of the processor in. I've got all my diesel in here. And I'm going to turn the heater on. Little aquatic heater in there. I'm going to plug in right here and set it to 85, 90 degrees, something like that. That just helps the oil and the water separate. And then I come around here and I turn on my water. I've got a valve and a timer valve. So just make sure you have enough room in the top of your tank for whatever time you set it to. I set it for 2 hours and that fills me almost all the way full in my wash tank. So what that's going to do, that's going to rinse out through the top. There's mist valves right there. It's going to mist down and gently wash the methanol and contaminants and excess reactants all out of there. The methanol is hydrophilic. It will stick to the water. The excess KOH will also stick to the water. And you're also going to grab soap. When you neutralize the free fatty acids in the biodiesel, that makes soap. So you want to gently rinse all that out. All right, once my mist valve, timer valve turns off, I'm just going to let that settle for about at least 24 hours. So what you'll have at that point is a layer of diesel on top and a layer of water and contaminants on the bottom. At which point, I'll open up my drain valve and drain off the water with contaminants to a safe location. Check with your zoning to see how you're allowed to dispose of that. This has been washed, misted for 2 hours, and then left to set for about 24 hours. And you can see that it's separated now into the diesel on top and a layer of water on the bottom. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to drain off the water from the bottom, which you can see is pretty dirty. And once I drain that off, I'm going to turn on the mister. I'm going to close the valve once it's drained off, and then I will turn on the mister again for 2 hours and let it set for another 24 hours. And you continue to do that until that water looks relatively clean coming off. And then you move to the next step where you use the bubbler to agitate it while you rinse. Alright, now this is where I want to stop. I went from flowing water-like looking substance to a soapy-like mixture. This is going to be some soap as well as some oil-water emulsion. So that's where I shut it off and rinse again. Turn on my water valve, turn on my timer. Another 2 hours. The heater is still on, and you see that it looks pretty nasty and not at all clear. So another rinse. Now we've reached a critical stage in washing. If I look at the water coming off the bottom after it's been rinsed and let set 24 hours and drained off several times, this is the third or fourth time, the water draining off the bottom is fairly clear. A couple things to look at. I also have a good separation between the water and the diesel. And if I look at the diesel, it's a little murky, but it's relatively clean. So based off of that, on this next rinse, we are ready to start washing with agitation. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to finish draining this water off. Alright, so I stop draining. Once I start to see this soapy oil water emulsion, and I'm ready to start my next rinse. So valve's on, turn on my 2 hour misting timer. The heater is still on and plugged in, but what I'm going to do now, I'm going to plug in a little aquatic bubbler. Something I forgot to tell you about this earlier, there is a one-way check valve in the line here. So I'll take my bubbler and just drop it in. So when you're adding the bubbler, you want to be careful that you don't have it going so hard that it makes a foamy mix on top. You check that it's bubbling, but if it's starting to foam up the entire top of the barrel, you need to crank down or turn back on the bubbling speed. But this one looks fine. But if I had to, I could adjust the speed of the bubbler. But I'm just gonna let that mix. So that's gonna add agitation. As the water's sifting down, the bubbles will sift up and it'll get a real good wash this time.
Alright, so this has been bubbling overnight. That was after it was rinsed once. You see the water layer at the bottom of it again. But if I look at it, you can just see how much cleaner it looks after that first bubbling. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pull the bubbler out. Just have it rest out here. I take the bubbler out so that the little diffuser, the little wooden diffuser, doesn't get clogged. And I'm gonna give it a quick rinse. 15-20 minutes. And what that's gonna do, that's gonna get rinsed down if anything, any crud bubbled up to the top. And once this rinses, I'm only gonna let it sit for about 12 hours. So at the end of the day today, I'm gonna start the next 2-hour rinse with the bubbler and continue that for a while until the water comes out clean.